So yeah, this was pretty familiar. That the testosterone had shifted my body from in a very more dominant way for a primary amount of years. Shifted the body from a female typical fat pattern of hips, thighs, butt to a male typical pattern of abdomen, waist, and upper body. I had absolutely no like just freedom of my body before, and it was in a much more dominant way for since 2020 in a gradual stage that and then to a male typical pattern of abdomen, waist, upper body I could develop. I could have gone to the gym. I wanted to save my life. The childhood quote about saving lives, about saving your own life, just it would be becoming stable, just meant about stability, and rather than being unstable, is being aware of the physical changes in your mind, your intellect, your mental, your intellect, your intellectual capacity to read and write and draw and professional. I had a professional career on a game that was an immersive world where we could have avatars and we could be police or characters, or we could. I have a long tendency of being an actor, and is this a dagger I see before me in Macbeth? Performing monologues and such. Testosterone shifts the body from hips, thighs to abdomen, waist, upper body. This was very familiar. Yes, it happens without even changing diet, but in a genuinely more typical way that was more recognizable in my naked forms of patterned, typical type or whatever, metabolism, and I knew my metabolism was affected over time. Changes basal metabolic rate slightly, prioritizing muscle and abdominal fat over hip and thigh fat, which is patterned against literally the criteria of being either or, and why I can say I am emotionally, and the truth is for that reason, really. For such a long time in intellectual pieces which had been written for a long period of time with complete stability, with normal level of ordinariness or mundaneness or plain sort of believing and things, but some naturalism to phenomena of the universe and the world, a shooting star from the sky with a beautiful sequence to it that was part of the world, was part of nature, was part of things that correlated. There are tarot card women on YouTube who they make a business out of clairvoyant more type of expressions of their person. Learn neuroscience, I was told, by a pick card woman who does tarot, which is more mysticism, which for hundreds of years had been scientifically experimented with or engaged with in a lineage, evolutionary, historical way, which is legitimate, which is correlating over time and in burst over time, or respected over time in a way that correlates and then grows and then manages itself, and where it stores fat or whatever. But it was in a more literally a greater, more. For example, 2025, I lost knowledge of the word health or whatever. 2025, very late in the year, knowledge of the word health. I cared about health in quite a regular way of just human health. Reassign fat from hips to other areas. This is because the hormone is telling the body this is the male fat pattern. Adjust storage accordingly. This is familiar. That is quite familiar. Yes, and I did have I did actually have some very permanent, some for many years, and without effort or disarray to my speaking, and my key changes and my pitch changes had a capacity or a notion of themselves that were able to reach something that was undefinable, probably, or new, or in singing, we must be strange, we might feel strange, We must be strangers here. And the syllables and the speed of your, rapping or whatever, I would call it rapping, I'd give it rapping. It's literally a redistribution, not a net loss caused by eating less or being skinny, and that is all familiar to me, yes, and it would just reduce fat everywhere, yes, digestion explained it would just reduce fat everywhere. Testosterone is like a body sculptor. It reshapes the fat and muscle mass according to male typical patterns. Your eating habits or natural thinness aren't just the main factor. Yes, draw a diagram. ChatGPT by Sam Altman is quite a legitimate source of information, and this can be found in books, which in Waterstones or in libraries you can find the same information in every book. You can find that scholars in universities and public research universities such as KCL, King's College London, which is a public research university, I will try to phone people and I'll try to record what they say if they give me their permission and such, because I should have lived a very personal life, and I want to find love and be loving, find a lover and things, and return to a physicality or a sort of notion of things that was dominantly an individuality as an individual, just one core individual who had a mainframe of himself that was functional and digestive and really went to great lengths to but if I was aware of sort of the physicality changes in the way that you just know directly what the patterns changes were going to be. Naturalistic phenomena such as this or whatever I had a really depth of analysis of a new kind of thing that isn't really known to be honest. Overall, I really wish I had been given ample opportunity to really prove the work was of its own accord, a melody and a scrutiny of each perception, and a scrutiny of each perception and a value of poetic integrity and describing process and inner workings. I wanted somebody to read it in its brightest gesture towards enduring and meaningfully enjoying and taking joy from the arrangement of existence. I would compile it into the completed book 4, complete with emerging themes. If we all, but my voice never crumbled, not once in the manner of years, and then I lost song, and I completely had just thought I've sung before, but I just never thought to. Initial research and guided into study into quantum relating consciousness, and beginning with analysing and providing answers, always attempting to or trying to, with the best gestures of earnest care, providing answers for what may happen in the future, how we solve problems, the micro and the macro and the greater fruits. Following this, I was abused by a weapon of misunderstanding. I am one example of a temperament to surge into a rich philosophy and nurture those windows of contemplation and to confront. And my temperament of belief and understanding actually is quite fundamentally ordinary and regular and persuasive and collective and connected and immersive and esteemed and not divisive, really. It doesn't try to be divisive. I try, how are you okay, to every participant in my existence. And to continue obscuring with movement, opposition of rain or depression, unleashing a new operable welfare, knowledge of capacity. The knowledge of capacity and fruit and vegetables are 5 a day is probably would really, really help in a fundamental way for a month, 5 a day, fruit and vegetables. And relaxing then within their palpable continuum of continuing and arming themselves with devout care. Acceptance of all commands and centers within one's heart, which establishes a secure wisdom and ceaseless change, and amassing this ceaselessly with duty to one's enemies. This was a logical development of change and development of who I was, from coding, programming languages, on games which were played by others, and a family game, and amassing this ceaselessness with duty to one's enemies. I progress in a quite a robust and regular way, and I have a fundament to my as shown. This is fundament, and amassing this ceaselessness with duty to one's enemies, which he would not have else he was formed in, which he would not have else he was formed in the rubble, and redefining peace and excellence, which has gone into more elaborate detail and more fluctuations. The way I function is very well permitted to me, well known to me, well adjustable by fruit and vegetables, the most simplest explanation for all things. And is that if I had done that, the one thought I had when you're a doctor, you've got a job for life, is I've eaten so many vegetables. This is the truth, is that I never need to ever again, and that isn't true. You need to, and it would have saved your stability, your stable, good life, and your income. And the way I budget money would be beneficial, the way I budget understanding, my logic and things, redefining peace and excellence. Throughout time we spent indebted to time and its own interests, and asserting one's own context of lifeblood and form and genre in any position, state or country. Irregardless of this context, or malnourished or empty, from depressed meaninglessness, personhood, by God or design, environment or culture, must it always develop their silver lining. And my favourite line is something like, I'll find it in a second, where we were people and supplemented by the colours of synergy with the effective productions of the gritty realism which negotiates my body. But yes, I had lower sort of appeal to all different syllabic fixtures to my vocalization. The way that I made eye contact was more persuasive, was more I could really engage or harmonize with the body in the room, and anatomy, like the government as a body, not a human body, but the government as a body. And the domain that I had on websites, CSS, HTML, programming languages, the domain is a .com or a .in or a .net or a .uk, and the domain is your personal power, or your the idea of the guy had an NDE, and he had the oneness thing, the oneness in sex or sexuality or whatever is true, the oneness is true, and it's not just permitted to, but I take more of a liking to Hinduism or Buddhism in part. I'm trying to be Buddha. This is where my heart is. This is how I have really strived and succeeded and creatively engaged in a manner which is respectable and of an ordinariness and a attunement and a refinement which is completely paradoxical to any legitimate sense of madness or insanity or complete combustion. Must it always develop their silver lining, where we were people and supplemented by the colours of synergy and the effective productions of the gritty realism which negotiates my body, residue of who I have been and how I have engaged in every opening, and my period, which I call it that because I did have one when I was 19 years old, and then when I was 20 it did cease, and I just call it that because it once was belonging to my body. And then I ceased to bleed from the wherever the hell or whatever the hell it is, but I have but for years at a time no period pain whatsoever for like 5 years, and it cropped up once or twice, which is an everyday commonplace English. It cropped up once a day. It cropped up I wanted a piece of bread, and my desire cropped up every so often residue of who I have been and how I have engaged in every opening, the essence of a heartfelt life, an endeavour of the sacred and the soul to healing, the overall completion of the irregular and refined task of representing a sound oracle of orchestral and artistic regard, to which timely equilibrium, action to depth, and sanctifying knowledge was a necessity to any privilege of living. Any privilege of living. Representing a sound oracle, the sound of mind, being sound, sound of mind, sound of heart, a sound oracle, was a necessity to any privilege of living, an opportune and propitious soulmate. Propitious is a word I learned, or whatever, and I learned fallible from Jordan Peterson, which means capable of easy of making mistakes, and I just love that. Jordan Peterson, I want to meet him one day. The fucking staircase wit. Staircase wit is a real thing where people, just in the masses world, the world of masses, MASSES, we, you get into an argument with somebody and then you walk away or whatever and you come up with a comeback and you say, oh, well, I fucking meant, I should have said blah, blah, blah. And I was in the shower and I wanted to get into an argument. I had something to say and you think of the comeback afterwards, but it's a similar thing to staircase wit is what that is called, when you get into an argument and then when you walk away you think, oh, I know what I should have fucking said, I should have said blah blah blah, I should have savagely owned you and said blah. Anyway, me and Jordan Pearson, we bump into each other in a coffee shop, really well visualised, and he's there and I just have something to say to you, Jordan, and the universe gave me a dad. And I was showing him my colouring, my drawings. I was showing him my colouring, and he's a psychologist, and so am I. And I was showing him my colouring, which is my drawings or whatever. And I wanted obviously to show him my art and the tea and the difference between tea and coffee and a coffee shop, and we just bumped into each other in that one, yeah. But that's quite a common thing in civilization or whatever, of literal, like Jordan Peterson knows what staircase wit is. Staircase wit. When you're witty, you are witty, you have wit. Your wits about you is good enough. An opportune and propitious soulmate of synergy emerged from the beacon of diversified offerings of intellectual consciousness and truth, which complements my belief in my actualization, which is just a belief in actualization to transition. Not only actualization, but effort to overwhelming potential, the right to live it strongly, do what I do, and cast out fear of deathly tones, and with dignified love, and be among galaxies and thinking of galaxies. The universe which shines and arises to fortitude, despite nocturnal conditions and deficits and meaty life.